Welcome to the Virtual Coffee Lab. Thanks for joining me today. We're going to be doing something kind of cool. We're going to be drinking a coffee from Central America, and the farm that we purchased this coffee directly from has won some awards. So stick around, we'll talk about the farm, we'll roast the coffee, and then we're going to drink it together. All right, we're going to have some fun here today. My son and I purchased 4 pounds of an El Salvador coffee directly from a farm, female owned, and it's the Aida Batlle selection, ABS. This is from the Santa Ana region of El Salvador. She is a 5th generation farmer, and it's cool to be able to go to her website and buy her coffee. And she oversees all the production, and she's got a really high standard for quality. There's several things that are unique about her coffee beans that she grows, the coffee plants that she grows. She has 2 different variations of a Kenyan bean that she has been planting and growing on her farm, and she's done some really special things with this coffee. They've been battling with the coffee rust, which is a disease that's been flourishing all over Central America. And one of the things that they've done is they've grafted Robusta coffee bean plants, coffee plants, with the Bourbon plants, and they've grafted them together. So you have the root system of a Robusta, and you have the actual bush with the leaves and the fruit of the Bourbon. And so you get the endurance and the hardiness of the Robusta plant, but you get all of the flavor and all of the uniqueness of the Bourbon in this coffee. And so that's one of the cool things that she's doing at this farm. She's also got some hybrid stuff. But this is a SL28 and an SL34 Kenyan, as well as a varietal, a Bourbon varietal that she has that she's growing there. And that's what this coffee comes from. This coffee is freshly picked. They're only picking the best berries, and the processing is all overseen and done of the highest standards. So we've got ourselves a great coffee, and we're looking forward to tasting this. We're looking forward to seeing what this coffee from Central America tastes like, specifically with kind of this Kenyan influence with the beans that are going on. And it's cool, and you can do the same thing. There's all kinds of farmers that are selling coffee direct, but Aida is an award-winning coffee, Cup of Excellence coffee from back in 2003. She put herself on the map, and she continues to produce great quality coffee. As a matter of fact, this coffee that we're going to be tasting is currently being highlighted at one of the largest, best-known roastery brands in the United States. So we're excited to try this coffee. Okay, so we're going to get the roaster warmed up. We're going to get this coffee going here, and we're going to use the profile that we always use with our coffees. We change it up here and there a little bit. This is not a natural. This is a washed coffee. It's fairly dense. It's an altitude of 5,000 feet, so I would call it a fairly dense coffee. And so we're going to use a charge temperature on this roaster of 380 degrees. Our goal is to have ultimately like 45% dry time, 35% is going to be the middle brown phase, or with the Maillard and the caramelization, and then about a 20% development. So we're looking for around a 9.5 minute roast time, and we'll go ahead and get this started. I'll show you some of the roast highlights as we charge the machine, and then we'll have a cupping to check things out. Okay, we're charging the roaster with the El Salvador Finca Kilimanjaro from Aida Batlle. We've got 1 pound that just went into the roaster, and the heat is off right now. So we charged the roaster at 380 degrees, but we do not have the gas on right now, and we're going to do a 30-second soak. You can see this gas is off. Here's a look at Artisan as the drum temperature starts to decline, and we head towards our turning point. After 30 seconds, we turn on gas to be about 60%. This roaster is a real hot rod, so we've got a lot of energy that we can apply to these beans, and we have to be careful not to apply so much that we go flying through dry end. I've got the drum set at about 55 RPMs. We turn the drum speed up and we turn the airflow up once we get to dry end. We're going to be watching the beans throughout this roast here so that you guys can see this. The beans start out in that green state, and then as heat is applied, the beans will start to take on kind of a pale yellow, and it'll start to get brighter, and then more yellow intensity shows up. And this is all going to happen within 4 minutes, 4.5 minutes. We're going to take a look at the coffee again. Now we're into this for a couple minutes, and we definitely see that yellow hue. It's still showing green, but it's definitely taking on a yellow hue. And then the further we get along, the less of the green we'll see and the more of the yellow we see. You notice that when I took the trier out, that there's steam that is coming out of the beans. They're releasing moisture during this process. The trick is to always be consistent when you call dry end. So when we decide we're done and the beans are fully dry, every time we roast, we want to make sure that the beans, it's consistent. We want to make sure that we're always calling it at the same point every time. More of the yellow hue is being applied, moisture is being removed from the bean, being very close to dry end. Looks like it's pretty full yellow, and we're going to go ahead here in just a second, and then we're going to call it. Okay, we have completed the drying phase. We are in the middle phase now. The beans are starting to go from that yellow to a brown color, and as you see from a series of trier inspections, you'll notice that the beans are now brown, they're not yellow, and you'll start to see them become more consistently brown. You'll see the chaff start to come off of the beans. Hearing some outliers. We're hearing a few pops and cracks, and first crack should get fully going here in just a couple seconds. Okay, we're calling first crack. The drum temperature is continuing to go up. The rate at which it's going up is decreasing, and we are now in the development phase where we want to stretch this out. We don't want to rush through this phase. We want to get a 20% development, which is going to be pretty close to 2 minutes once we call first crack. The beans are looking great. The chaff is definitely all flying off. The beans are all pretty much brown, and we see a lot of mottling, a lot of this wrinkling and bumpiness on the beans. We're going to start smelling it. We have been smelling this along the way, but we're going to start smelling it more. And we had a couple little gas adjustments as we're finishing up first crack. Fan on. So we have a cooling tray right here, and there's a fan on. We're smelling this coffee, and it's smelling really good. And it's now time to drop the beans. Okay, we're going to mix this coffee a little bit, just move it around in the tray. The fan is sucking the air from the room down through the beans and through the tray and out underneath. So this is going to cool really quick, and the coffee is looking great. All right, well, taking a look at the graph and the result of the roast, we first take a look at the table. We'll see that we really, as far as times go, we really hit the mark here pretty much where we wanted to be. We had a almost 44% dry time, and our goal was 45%. We had a 3 minute and 21 second Maillard, which brought us really into the 35.5% from a time standpoint, and a 157, which is 20.6% for development. So this is almost exactly what we wanted to do. Really happy with this roast because it was our first time we've roasted this coffee and we kind of knew what we wanted to do with our profile. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to cup this coffee. Thanks for joining us here today to taste this coffee. If you've liked what you've seen so far on this video, hit the like button. That really tells YouTube that things are going on here that are good, and we'll promote this video. If you enjoy this channel, then I would encourage you to subscribe. That really helps me out. And most importantly, hit the notification bell, and that way when videos are uploaded, you'll be the first to know. Okay, it is 2 days later after we roasted. I'm here with my son, Michael.
Hello.
And we are going to do a tasting of the Aida Batlle Kilimanjaro coffee from El Salvador. So let's first talk about our experience in brewing this coffee, Michael. Why don't you go ahead and share what you did?
Yep, I was using the December dripper, which is shaped just like the Kalita 185, same size, same shape, but it has an adjustable flow rate so that I can hit my target times. And I noticed with this coffee, the flow rate was a little slower than typical Central American coffees. Not extremely slow, but a little slower. Usually that means, I don't know, it usually means the beans are more dense or that the grind is finer or something like that when the flow rate is lower. Your grind settings were the same, but the flow rate was slower. I noticed that too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. But other than that, no problems brewing. It was fine.
So my brew time was like 3:40.
Oh yeah.
And
mine was 3.5 minutes. I didn't say the brew time.
Okay, yeah, mine was 3:40. Normally I can get it to 3:30. I just used the standard stainless steel Kalita 185. I did use my screen, and that kind of helps keep the filter from blocking the holes, and it's been working really great. But I did notice a slower brew rate on the Kalita myself as well. Are we ready to taste it?
Sure.
So for me, this is really a pleasant cup of coffee. I would almost call this like a good morning cup of coffee. There's a comforting experience I have when I drink it. And that might be because it seems to be balanced. So I'm getting a little play on the back of my tongue, a little bit of a zing on the back of my tongue. I'll call that maybe the complexity of the different things going on. I'm getting a very pleasant acidity.
It's, for me, the fruit, I would call it like a sweet and tart, slightly fermented cherry.
Really?
The way that I would describe it, yeah. For the fruit notes.
When we tasted that Colombian, the anaerobic Colombian, that was intense. I could clearly taste that. This seems to be more subtle. It's definitely not anywhere in the same vein as that Colombian. That was like a fruit bomb. This just seems to be more balanced.
Yeah. So the Colombian dry processed geisha that we had that you're mentioning is an interesting comparison, because that was a coffee that was very Kenyan-like for being grown in Colombia and being a geisha. It was very Kenyan like, but it wasn't only Kenyan, but it was reminiscent of that. And so going into this coffee, which is El Salvador, Central America, and they have SL28, SL34 varietal in there,
Yeah.
which is that Kenyan varietal is usually very distinctive. I was expecting this to be a very Kenyan-like cup.
Mm-hmm.
And what surprises me about it is that it does have a very focused and pronounced fruit note, like a Kenyan coffee does, that's tart. But like a Central American coffee, it's less savory compared to a Kenyan coffee, and it has a bigger caramely fudge body.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a very interesting blend or marriage of the characteristics that you get from a Central American coffee, where it's sweeter, bigger bodied, chocolatey, and then a Kenyan coffee that's kind of very flashy and fruity. And this is like a nuanced combination of the two. It's very interesting.
Okay.
I'm curious to know what the percentages are.
Right.
I wonder if, when you buy a pound of Finca Kilimanjaro, if the percentages could be different depending on the lot that it's coming from or the time of year, or if they have a strict blending percentage between the varietals that they use. That would be something interesting to know.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as this batch that we had, this pound that we roasted, it seems to be a very nice combination. You get positive qualities of both sides of things, and it's overall it seems like a very high quality coffee. I wanted to mention the finish. The finish is like very clean, but a very clean finish, if you think in your head, it might just kind of like disappear, like all of the taste just goes away. But this is, you get like one chocolate note and one fruit note, and it just keeps going and going and going, but it's clean. There's not like a dirty, bitter taste with it.
It seemed to be a unique coffee. A female-owned farm, award-winning farm, El Salvador, Central America, something different, and known for quality. And so I think it was $60 for 4 pounds.
Yeah,
I think that's what it was.
I think that's what it was. I think you're right.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely on the expensive side. For me, worth it. I mean, one of the really cool things about right now in coffee for us is that, it used to be that we had to find a coffee roaster that had really good coffee to get coffee from them. Then we started roasting on our own and sourcing, but we were dependent on places like Sweet Maria's, which are really helpful for home roasters, but they have relationships with a lot of farms and they provide greens to us. But you always hear about these superstar farms that the really good roasters will get a little bit of, and if you're lucky to try it and they have it while you're there, you get to have it. But for us, now we could buy directly from this really well-known farm, which I'm not sure if I ever had coffee from this farm. I've definitely heard about it and heard people talk about it, but we were able to buy a small amount direct and roast it ourselves. And that's kind of a new thing for us and for other people. The effects of globalization impacting our ability to try different things. It's a definite benefit. So I was happy to spend the money and try it out.
Yeah, that's a great point. That is something that I love about this hobby. I'm calling it a hobby. The roasting aspect of it is something that I enjoy to do. And it's unique because when we really look at the whole coffee home roasting experience, there's so much more involved with acquiring the bean. I mean, we learn more about the farmer, we learn more about the environment, all the work that's gone through. There are several videos online with Aida Battle's farms, and they show how the coffee is being picked, how it's being milled. It's a really interesting story. Her great-great-grandfather was the first coffee grower in El Salvador, and actually was the one who brought the Bourbon varietal into El Salvador. And he introduced this Bourbon varietal to Jay Hill, and that's the mill, the large mill that processes coffee in that region, and exports it. And so that was the great great grandfather that started that relationship. And here is Aida Batlle now working with this mill again and producing excellent coffee. So you learn about the farm and all the experiences. And then she goes out and she markets this coffee to large, well-known coffee cafes, networks, roasters, and that have networks of cafes. Currently, I guess we can say who it is. I alluded to a national brand that is currently promoting her coffee. It's Blue Bottle. So some of you may have heard of Blue Bottle before. So the Finca Kilimanjaro is being served and sold by Blue Bottle right now. But us as home roasters, you go to her website and she has this coffee specifically earmarked for home roasters. It's the home roaster selection, but it's the same coffee. It's the Finca Kilimanjaro coffee. So that's really cool.
Yeah, normally I was just trying to look on the Blue Bottle website here, but I'm not sure if it's still up actually. Mm-hmm. But if we're trying to buy it from them, we'd probably be paying shipping and end up with a 300 gram or 500 gram tin or something like that. So yeah, we would have to try to get in line, hope that we got it, and if we did, it was a small amount. And now we were able to buy 4 pounds and roast it ourselves. So it's really cool to be able to do that.
Yeah, we just don't screw it up when we roast it, right?
Well, I mean, do our best.
Yeah. This coffee was roasted, as I mentioned earlier in the video, with a profile that we use whenever we roast coffees. And it varies a little bit from roast to roast, but generally speaking, it's produced some great coffee for us, the way that we're roasting it. And we're able to reproduce it fairly easy and fairly consistent with a few bumps along the road. All in all, we enjoy roasting coffee using the profile that we have with this 45% dry time, 30 to 35% middle phase, which is like the Maillard and the caramelization middle phase, and then 20% development. And we got that really, really close this time. And this is a good cup of coffee. We're really happy with it. Okay, so that pretty much wraps up this coffee. This is a great coffee that we would wholeheartedly recommend to others, home roasters, to try out and enjoy. Michael, do you have any other thoughts that you want to share before we wrap things up?
If you have an opportunity to try this coffee out and roast it, I would recommend it.
Yeah, and then if you do, let us know in the comments below, or if you have questions, leave comments and we can interact with you. And we really appreciate you joining us here today. And we'll see you next week in the lab.